Hi everyone, welcome back to another Sensible SENCO update thingy.
I like his thingies.
I think he's the best kind of thingy.
That's whatchamacallit.
It's a whatchamacallit thingy.
Oojamaflip.
We did a game like this the other day. We were in the car and we were going, what's a better word for thingy? And we decided that there were lots of different words for thingy. But enough.
Whatchamacallit.
How do we do flicky? So today we just want to talk about, not the prize draw, because the prize draw will come out next week. So we want to talk about the survey results though, because it was very, very interesting seeing the responses that we got, because there were a lot of SENCO questions about, work-life balance and that kind of stuff, and the pressures that are on you at the moment. And we just want to kind of go through them because I think we need to support a bit more.
I'm not sure we can actually resolve any of them.
I don't think we can resolve any of them,
as much as anything.
But we can have a good go, and that's it. I'm going to cross my legs and sit on here because the floor's cold and my feet are frozen. So the first one that came back, my workload as a SENCO has increased over the last year. That was the first question that we put up. And it was a scale of 1 to 10, and it came back 9.1.
Yeah, I think there's lots of factors that feed into it, and that's just a single question that says, has my workload increased? I mean, we could all perceive that our workload has increased, even though it possibly hasn't sometimes. Maybe it's a change in senior leadership and it's a different way of working. My workload's increased with the apprenticeship because I've had a new line manager. The other two people who kind of sit within that structure are leaving just after Christmas. My perception is my workload has increased. It hasn't. It's just how I feel about it because of those changes. And I think my apprentices are a little bit more needy than they used to be.
Well, that's the whole population of the UK at the moment.
Yeah. So it feels like everything's more, and it feels like I have to do more for it, and my workload has increased. But actually, if I look back and do it, when I was writing the programme out and having to do it right the way from the beginning with nothing to work from, it's not an increase on that. It's just a different type of work. So,
yeah, I suppose. But with the numbers of EHCPs going up by 10% each year, that's going to be a big piece of their workload because they do all the reviews and they do everything else, and that is huge for them.
There is a large proportion of that, but again, I think that's down to context of the school, because some schools that we talk to haven't seen an increase in their EHCPs. So using the language from last year, it was that magnet school effect of the schools that have got them and are doing a good job with them get more of them. The schools that are perhaps not doing quite so well with them don't get more of them. And their workload isn't increasing in terms of EHCPs. It's a different type of workload that's increasing for them.
Should have put an EHCP question in there, shouldn't we, really?
Possibly.
Maybe next year. So part of that workload could have been to do with the next question as well. So the next question is, I have been involved in more administrative tasks related to special educational needs than last year.
Probably. Again, I think it has to be taken in context because some local authorities are involved in the pilot schemes for the new Send an AP plan. So they will have seen a change in paperwork and possibly more record keeping required by the local authority, because that's what the local authority requires. We've got local authorities that have gone bankrupt. We've got local authorities that are part of the safety valve system. So they're having to tighten their systems, which is then passed on to the school. I think, yeah, you can increase an administrative task so long as it has an impact on other things. I don't mind filling in paperwork. I actually don't object to it, to be honest. What I do object to is having to duplicate information across several different things. So for me, filling in an EHC request or the consultation question, having to answer that, I think that's part and parcel of the job. And I don't mind doing that, but I do object to it when I'm expected to do it on that platform for that service and that platform for that service and that platform for that service, because they all want it in their own format. That's when I have an issue with it. So I think, I've been involved in more administrative tasks. Yes, some schools probably have, but there is a bit of a bigger picture. And hopefully over the next 3 years or so, as we decide what's happening with that, hopefully.
Really?
Just 3 years so that, as that new SEN code of practice is written and all the rest of it, and the local authorities get some funding and sort themselves out and everything's sorted, hopefully that will then come back down to, actually, this is the bare minimum, this is what we need. A bit like the good old-fashioned CAF paperwork.
Do you think the SENCOs will last another 3 years?
Depends whether they've got enough money in their pension pot. I haven't.
That's the question, isn't it? We've got 3 years of waiting for all this time, and then we're seeing, and some of the other questions that come up are about burnout and stuff like that.
The green paper's currently still a green paper. It hasn't gone through law. It hasn't made changes yet. But we are having a general election next year. And there was that worry, if we go back about 12 months, where a new government comes in, just completely scraps the whole thing, so what's the point in doing anything towards it? And actually everything you read about what the shadow government is saying about the SEN report is, yes, we recognise there needs to be change and we will review it at that time. So it sounds like they will actually pick up wherever the Conservatives have left off, assuming the Conservatives are out. They're going to pick it up and continue running with it, as opposed to pick it up and go, no, scrap that, we'll start again. Which is a positive, so it's worth engaging with.
It's just what changes they make to it, and it's whether they actually put new funds into it, which they might do, to be honest. They may put more funds into it, being a different government, and wanting to show what they're doing. But if the government's got any money as well, by the way.
It depends. They can go and print some.
Let's go print some more money. Yeah.
Under the old Labour government, we had money, so we had staff training budgets, we had school rebuilds. I remember being given a sheet of paper on the first day of each term with which CPD courses do you want. Yeah. There was money coming out of our ears at one point. You had to spend it, otherwise you'd lose it.
I remember that.
So there is the vague possibility that something along those lines will come back, but we'll have to wait and see.
Hopefully.
If it's a Labour government, of course, because it might not be.
Well, if it's not, it's another...
Just don't give us another coalition government. I
was going to say, another coalition government, and we're all kind of in trouble, aren't we, really? So just to say that administration, that came back as 8.8 out of 10. As their level for
the average score.
The average score.
But again, it varied. I mean, there's some scores of 3, 4 on there.
There's also some people that couldn't be bothered to fill in the scores for any of them, which would have skewed the figures by putting a 0 into it. So, and if you have put the figures in as zeros, we have removed you from the competition because...
Yeah, the whole point of the prize draw was to actually get some feedback from you to be able to use in the future.
It wasn't for you just to kind of put zeros in and try and get away with it. So the next one...
It's being sassy today, isn't it?
I am. I've had some sleep as well.
Christmas sassy spirit.
Christmas sassy spirit. No, I think we should reward the people that help
put the effort in.
Put the effort in and help us. We're asking for your support in the survey, and we were wanting to kind of develop further. And if all you're doing is just filling out as quickly as you possibly could do, just to try and get a prize, then
that is not fair.
No, it's a simple answer. No.
He's politer than I was.
I was going to say something quite rude then, but no.
Fluffy kittens.
It's not what it's there for. And I can see on the page that we've got open now, there are 2 people that have put zeros in all the way through because they just didn't want to answer it or couldn't be bothered to answer it. So, well, we'll do a blog on all this later on anyway. And Abigail's
doing a blog. Yes.
Abigail's doing a blog on this later on, and she'll go through it in much more detail. Because I think it's really interesting. Next piece, demands on my time for SEN have grown significantly. This one is at 9.3. It's actually higher than workload. So demands on time.
Yeah, I think this has it's a knock-on effect from budget constraints. So we haven't got enough TAs, we haven't got enough teachers. So we've got SENCOs who've been given time to do their role, and then it's been clawed back from them. So I saw some posts the other day about being used for cover. And there's this regular expectation to go and do cover, and like SLT are not appreciating the fact that that person might have meetings already booked in and things like that. That impact of the TAs, not being able to recruit TAs to the posts means that we're actually having to give more support to the teachers so that they can meet the needs within the classroom. That's another story altogether, because back in the day, last century for me, you had to meet the need of every child in the classroom because you didn't have a TA. I think we've lost a skill set somewhere along the way. In the last 30 years, we've lost the ability to teach effectively. I
think of a lot of the old school SENCOs, and we've seen it on the survey that we've got here, have left the industry. And there's a lot of new ones. So a lot of the SENCOs that we've had that fill in this form have only got 1 year's worth of experience.
I don't think that's the SENCO. I think it's teachers. So teachers don't have the skill set anymore, is what I actually meant. In that, like I say, 30 years ago when I was first coming out, you had to meet the needs of every child who came through your door because you didn't have a TA in your classroom. Yeah. And yes, we still had more special schools open then, so you perhaps didn't have the really extreme students, but we still had to meet the needs of everybody else, and we did meet the needs of everybody else. As time's gone by, and we've kind of become reliant on the fact there's going to be an additional adult in the classroom. Certainly in primary schools.
Definitely
I think
in primary,
less
actually.
So. We saw it at the Nativity last week.
Yeah.
Don't just take a deep breath, do not make comment. I knew what you were about to say, do not.
I was definitely going to sing then.
No. Don't put everybody off. I think our demands, it's not just our demands to please go and cover this lesson, please go and do this, but it's also our demands to go and support teaching staff, because the teaching staff don't have those skills anymore.
So we need to upskill the teaching staff again.
We do, but we don't get given the time.
But it's not just upskilling them, is it? It's because you can upskill them. We can go into there and we can do these demonstrations like you do with your Winnie the Pooh and adaptive teaching and all that stuff there. And then it's how long does that last before we relapse back into the position where the old habits come back into place, and how much effort has the school got to put in to keep it going the way it should be going?
Well, schools have to follow up on it. So SENCOs have got to get out there and go and do learning walks and check that what they train people on is actually in place in classrooms. But so I'm doing my master's degree at the moment.
Yep.
And my dissertation, if you like, is on that idea of teachers having all of those plates of jelly to juggle. And you've got your statutory requirements taking the registry, your safeguarding side. You've got your academic requirements of what I'm actually teaching today. Do I understand the content of it? Have I got the sequence right? You've got whatever SLT have just asked you to implement this week, the 5 Ps or the 7 Qs or whatever else it is they've decided on. And then you've got to remember Fred sitting over there, Frank sitting over there, Daisy sitting over there with their special educational needs, and the fact that they're not allowed to sit together, and that one needs it on yellow paper, and that one wants it on pink paper, that one needs to use a green pen, that one needs a break after 5 minutes, that one needs a break after 7 minutes, that one needs a break after 9 minutes. What did I say about that one over there?
That was 9 minutes.
It was 5. Yeah. So that member of staff has got so much information coming at them that those plates of jelly, they're going to drop one of them. And very often what they will do is they will go back to their default measure of, I'm meeting the needs of 27 others, those 3 will have to wait, as opposed to, I'm meeting the needs of those 3, which would also then meet the needs of everybody else there, because they perceive it as additional.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's my take on it, and that's what my dissertation's about.
Okay.
Juggling jelly.
Juggling jelly as a dissertation.
It'll be fun.
I'm sure it'll be a very interesting dissertation. We'll put it on the website once she's done it.
I will. No, not allowed to.
What? Once it's what? Even though it's signed off?
Can't publish it.
Can't publish it.
No.
Can't publish a dissertation.
No. I can write a blog article about it.
We'll write a blog article about it once she's done it.
Cognitive load of teachers and the impact of
jellies.
Jellies.
The impact on jellies on cognitive load of teachers. Great. Sounds like a lovely title.
I wish I could have that as my title. At least it would be fun.
Well, that leads nicely into the next one, which is all about responsibilities for SENCOs and how they have expanded exponentially to cover a lot more things than just a SENCO's. But what is a SENCO's job?
Anything nobody else wants to do. Sorry, no, that's my job description.
Or is it the scapegoat? Because we've had that conversation before as well.
Sometimes it can be. Yeah, I think it depends on the size of the school. So in a large secondary school, you probably have different people who take different responsibilities. So you've got a pupil premium lead, an EAL lead, maybe you've got an inclusion lead, you've got somebody who looks after the mental health, you've got pastoral and academic leads. You're probably not leading on a subject as well. So in a secondary school, oh yeah, and safeguarding, I forgot safeguarding. How can you forget safeguarding? So you're probably not the DSL. I think in a secondary school, those roles are dissipated amongst a number of staff. In a primary school, what we're seeing more and more of is a SENCO who comes in, who possibly is only part-time, so they may only be doing 3 days a week, and they're coming in and they're actually being given a non-teaching post, but then they're asked to do some cover. But then they are also being asked to pick up that family support work, a bit of the EAL stuff, the pupil premium, the looked after usually falls under our remit, the safeguarding side. So, and even if they're full time, they're very definitely being asked to do those things. So I think that workload again is coming from that, and that role is expanding because of that. I made a joke in a conference I went to the other week. We're like the fourth emergency service. And I think that was born out of that word beginning with a C that we can't say if you're putting this on YouTube, because apparently it kind of deletes the algorithm. It's 5 letters with a V in the middle. I can't say the one that begins with a P either, the really long one, because apparently that deletes the algorithm as well. Stop trying to work out swear words with the V in the middle. I can see it go through your head.
Me, never.
But when we had that incident back in 2020, we became a service for families. And back then I made the joke about we became social workers, we became food banks, we became emergency mental health services for parents, we became a signposting service. We took on the roles of every single service possible, and actually they relinquished those roles to us, and quite a few of them actually haven't bothered taking them back again.
That's
so
true.
We're still doing it. So we're still almost we're a family service. We're triaging everything for everybody, and then they're sitting there going, well, that doesn't meet our threshold. Yeah, wonderful, well done. What am I going to do with them? I'm a teacher.
Once again, that comes to cutbacks and everything else.
It does.
And it goes into government and pieces. So.
It does. So, yeah, I think SENCO's roles have expanded. And I think some of it is in a good way, because I'm starting to see, and I'm really pleased about this, some SENCOs are being more a part of that teaching and learning side of things. Because I really do believe that teaching and learning and SENCO are so tightly meshed that they could almost, I'm not recommending this, but they could almost be the same role to a certain extent. But I'm really pleased to see that they are interlinking far better. But I think the other bits that are coming in are concerning, I suppose, and that's increasing responsibility and therefore the workload, perceived workload.
And everything else. Which then leads to them having more stress, of course.
Although not as many, because, this is actually a relatively low score. So your responsibilities was 8.8. Your stress score was 7.9.
I think it's stress and overwhelm due to the demands of the SENCO, the role of the SENCO. There's lots of 5s and 2s and 7s in this. So while the SENCOs are actually able to cope in most situations, what it looks like, and I'm only going by what I remember in my head from where the numbers are, is it's the new SENCOs who are feeling more stressed than the older type SENCOs who have the routines, who have everything in place.
I've done it last year.
And done it last year and have got the medals and are sitting there. I know.
We get medals.
I know. I'm also saying that, but I also know that there are some SENCOs in the group who have been around for 15, 20 years who are stressed. But that's more because, not because of the workload, it's because of a breakdown in the way the system or structure is within their own schools. So I think looking at that, and Abigail will do a bit more detail onto this and look to see whether it is the first year of being a SENCO when the stress levels go up because they were only a teacher. Only a teacher? You were only a teacher. Sacrilege, Gavin, sacrilege. They were a teacher beforehand, and now they're the SENCO, and then they start to realise how much additional work there is with that SENCO role.
Yeah, I think there's a large degree of that. And I also think that perhaps our timing on that question isn't great because we're in the period of time where schools are being consulted for year 7 placements if they're secondary, or for reception placements if they're primary, because that has to be announced end of February, beginning of March. So they're getting lots of EHC consultation requests coming through, so they probably are feeling a bit stressed and overwhelmed. Plus you've got the Christmas nativity going on if you're in a primary school, and that's causing chaos with your students, which is what we talked about with transitions. So there's a whole load of things that go into that number that if you take it as a snapshot, how am I feeling right at this point in time, somebody might give it a much higher score than they might give if they were asked to average it over the year.
Yeah, and that's the same for any survey. Any workplace survey does exactly the same thing. It is what is on your mind at that period of time. Because I know I do mine at work, and I always just remember the last thing that the manager said to me. And that then triggers everything that I actually put down on the thing.
I get one. I don't actually fill mine in because they send it to us weekly, and I resent the fact I have to fill it in weekly.
Can you imagine us sending something like that out every week?
It drives me absolutely insane. So I filled it in faithfully for the first 3 weeks of doing it 3 years ago, and I haven't filled it in since.
That's crazy, though, isn't it?
You want to know how I'm feeling? Talk to me.
Yeah, exactly. Just talk to people. It's really, really simple. Get them all in a room and then have a discussion.
Senior leadership wouldn't like that. They'd be scared.
They wouldn't be scared. They'd be fine. They'd take it all.
I was referring to my senior leadership team.
Yeah. You find that most senior leadership teams in schools, though, they're all kind of very willing to help, though, aren't they?
Depends which school you're in.
I think we've spoke to quite a lot of them, and when we've gone in there, or you've gone in there, and you've
no, I have seen some really fantastic SLTs where the SENCO has been saying, I get no support from my SLT, such as, and then you sit down and talk to SLT, and they are more than willing to help. The SENCO just isn't going, can I have help? And it's almost like that prickly barrier between the two, and I end up, I feel like a gardener pruning the thorns off something to go, oh, look, here's a nice smooth pathway for you. Why don't you have this conversation?
Just go and ask the question.
Yeah, just go and ask.
I think we had that conversation last week, didn't we?
We did, about booking tickets for Sensible 24. I need the time off. Go and ask.
Go and ask.
Go
and ask. It's that simple. Yeah. We're not going to talk about Sensible 24, though, today. Yeah. So emotional exhaustion sits at exactly the same level as stress, funnily enough.
Yeah, I think the two are kind of related. I mean, I'm just glancing at the scores on there. I think most people actually put the same score in for both. I think the two kind of go together. I think, again, it's that time of year for asking the question, though, because I know I'm not a full-time SENCO anymore. I haven't been for a few years. But I am exhausted, but I'm also emotionally exhausted. So, and there is a difference between the two. One is just being totally and utterly and completely knackered. Beep. The other one is that unable to manage the emotions. So that
you're breaking down, you're crying everywhere.
Not necessarily. It could just be a completely emotionless because you haven't got any energy to spend on emotions.
That's when you've turned it off.
Like a light bulb.
Just turn it off. Like a light bulb.
Don't ask. And don't make him sing.
Sorry, if you haven't seen Book of Mormon, please go see Book of Mormon. It's a very, very good thing. If you
It's hilarious.
If you can cope with the comedy values that it sits within, then yes, you'll be fine.
You have to have a broad sense of humour.
Very broad sense of humour.
Anyway, exhaustion. Yeah, so exhausted, get it. Absolutely get it. And I think also, again, time of year. Lots of people have seasonal affective disorder, but are not necessarily aware of it. He definitely has seasonal affective disorder. Unless it is warm enough for him to go outside with just a t-shirt and a pair of shorts on, he is definitely suffering.
I get very moody in the winter. I get very, very depressed, moody. And although I'm smiling right now, this is because we've gotten some nice lighting in here. You do kind of feel it. You feel the drag of the days going on and on and on. And when it comes to night time, and I'm just finishing my run at work, as it is, I am awful. If they ask me to do something, I am so defiant. I will not do it. So yeah, people be aware of those people that are out there like me that don't get enough sunlight during the winter.
And there's that vitamin D deficiency that lots of people apparently have, which we're not necessarily aware of. So vitamin D injection, or get as much sunlight as you can, go take that 5-minute walk kind of thing. But yeah, there's lots going on. So there is a whole load of factors, again, that feed into exhaustion.
Definitely. Like having 4 jobs.
Yeah, thanks.
Moving on is the appreciation of SENCOs. Now, SENCOs don't feel very valued and appreciated. 6.7. So it's very, very low score for them feeling appreciated and
There's a couple
valued.
of 10s in there.
Yeah, there are.
But there's also a couple of 1s. So again, and this may be my perception of it. Again, time of year doesn't help. As a SENCO, especially one that doesn't necessarily teach and probably doesn't have a class responsibility and a form responsibility, what we see, and it isn't about being rewarded for that kind of thing, but what we'll see at Christmas and in July is all of the kids bringing in a Christmas present or a Christmas card for their teachers, and they don't bring one for the SENCO. So there's a little bit of, I don't feel appreciated by my students and my parents. And that's not what we do it for. That's certainly not where I'm going with this. But there is that, even if you feel that you don't want that, you still see it. You see your colleagues loading the car with 50 bouquets of flowers and chocolates and all the rest of it, and you've got nothing.
Chocolates?
That'd be nice. You see it for everybody else, but you're not getting it. I think also that there's that nobody really understands the SENCO role unless you're a SENCO. So other people don't get what we do. They see us as somebody who's got lots of free periods on their timetable to sit in an office and play about with paperwork.
Yep, that's true. That's how I used to see you anyway.
Yeah. Yes, you used to make comments about it. What are you doing now?
Why
Another email.
Why are you still at work at this time of day? I've got to do more filing. Haven't you got enough filing time to do it in? You've got a whole day.
No, because the time you're in school, you're dealing with the students and the staff. So the only time you could actually do that, proper focused filling in something or filing a piece of paperwork or whatever else it was doing, was once everybody had gone.
Yeah. I understood that in the last couple of years, and that was probably about it.
Yeah.
The rest of the time is like, what's going on? What's really going on at school?
It was working.
It's work and more work.
Work and more work. So, yeah, I feel valued and appreciated. And sometimes it's just that very simple. I think staff are feeling very overwhelmed. SLT probably feel a little bit overwhelmed. And who do they go to when there's a problem with Freddie? They go to the SENCO. You need to solve this. So it's not, thank you for solving the problem for Daisy. It's, you need to solve this one.
You need a big sign on your door that says, if you haven't seen Google first, please do not open this door.
Google first. Google is your friend, I'm not.
That's what you need. Big sign on your door. Please Google before enter.
It's not even about that though is, just somebody to say thank you, or I recognise this, or, would you like me to make you a cup of tea while you do that piece of work, because I can see you concentrating.
And there is a huge piece of human satisfaction for being thanked for doing the task that you're doing. You can go into something and do it really, really well, and then the next time you go to do it, if you haven't been appreciated for that, you don't put the effort in again, and it's why should I bother? Why should I bother? I
think as SENCOs we don't have that mentality and attitude, though. We still put the effort and the thing into it, but we feel resentful towards it. And that's then when we start to internalise everything, then we start to experience that exhaustion, then it goes back to the stress, and then it starts to feel like it's a workload rather than it being a part of our work. And
it's a workload that you're putting on yourself as well, because your mind's then going round and round and round thinking, I've got to keep doing this, I've got to keep doing this. I've set myself up to do this, I'm going to do it again, I'm going to do it again. And you're not getting anywhere because nobody's actually giving you the feedback and the rewards and everything else that you kind of want to come from that.
Yeah, and it doesn't, like I say, it doesn't have to be a tangible reward. It doesn't have to be a box of chocolates or flowers or a card or anything like that. It can just be that smile or thank you.
And we do see that a lot on the Facebook. So a lot of the Facebook comments that come up are the parent came to me and went, thank you for doing everything that you're doing. It's really, really appreciated. And you can see that has more value than anything else that SENCO's done, because they know that they've made a difference, and that's the reason why you're in the role that you're in, most of the time anyway, unless you're just trying to climb the job ladder as such.
Can't accuse them of that. They wouldn't dare be in our group.
I wouldn't accuse anybody of that, but we do know that there are some career progression SENCOs that just want the role to progress.
But then you'd like to think that when they do make their progression, that they actually understand the role of the SENCO. I've got a feeling that those are the ones that don't.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
Well, I've done it, and I've done it really, really well, because I did it for 2 minutes. 2 minutes, yes.
I had a head teacher like that.
I've been a SENCO before. Yes. Sorry, if there is any heads out there that are going to be offended by that, I'm sorry. I really am.
No, I think there's some really good SLT, and some head teachers out there who understand SEN. There's some head teachers out there who don't understand SEN and go, you're my expert in this, please, please guide me, please give me that information. We were talking about the difference between micromanagement and being left to get on with it. And actually, neither of them are incredibly helpful. So the micromanagement one is, for God's sake, will you let me just use my expertise? That's what you employed me for. And the one where you're just left to do whatever you want, whenever you want, is too open-ended and has no direction. There is a happy medium in the middle where it's, okay, here are the school priorities, this is our situation, and this is where you fit into it. Let's set some goals, some deadlines, some targets. And I think, a lot of schools that I talk to, they're at either end of that polarity rather than that middle ground. And maybe that's what we need to negotiate a little bit better.
Yeah, once again, it comes back to having that conversation with your SLT and kind of discussing what needs to be done and the priorities that you need.
But then linking it back to feeling valued and appreciated. If you're one of the ones that has got no goals because your school hasn't set anything for you and it's very open-ended, how can you feel valued and appreciated? Because your SLT don't actually understand what it is you're doing. If you're being micromanaged, then their perception is, why should I acknowledge and congratulate you for doing something that I've written for you?
Yep.
So it's that middle ground that enables us to be valued and appreciated. Yeah. So, there you go.
There you go.
And the person I was talking to, you'll know who you are, and there you go, there's my take on it.
Yeah. More valuing and appreciating for SENCOs, definitely needed, but some structure on the SENCO role and what the outcomes need to be for each of those pieces.
And then I think it will impact on all those other scores that we spoke about earlier.
I think it would do. I think the whole thing would change around. We'll do the same kind of thing next year as well. So when we do our next prize draw, overall, SENCOs are feeling the workload, administration, demands and responsibilities are very high with them. And we've gone through some of those, and they are stressed, exhausted, undervalued, and require more recognition. If you do want to kind of get more involved with what we're doing, remember to come and join us at Sensible 24 on the 9th of February and get your tickets.
We've extended the deadline, so I actually have to give the numbers to the venue on 31st of December.
For the rest of the survey stuff, we have seen your feedback and comments, and we have made some changes already that are going to benefit you. So if you visit the website, you will see some of the changes, like the discounted membership. Now £5 instead of £12.50. Cheaper than the cost of coffee, actually, now.
Depends which size you buy.
Large.
And whether you live in London.
Extra large.
I guess you need a mortgage.
Double
No,
handed.
they're the American ones. You're thinking of Abby, whatever her name is, from CSI. Not CSI.
No. I was thinking of the double...
NCIS.
The Costa, double-handed.
Oh, the
double-handled
ceramic ones.
Super...
I thought you meant those great big soda cup iced coffee. Oh, never mind.
That's fine. We're just going to talk about coffee now. So if you'd
No,
like to
we're not. I
stay
don't
and
drink coffee.
have the conversation with us about coffee, you are more than welcome to. Make sure that you join us as well for Wine and Wine on the 5th of January. This will be the first time that we've used a new system, and we will be testing it live on Wine and Wine. If it doesn't work, we may be moving back to Zoom properly.
And we may cry.
And we might cry a lot.
A bit more than a lot.
Until next time, people. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.